Welcome to 755 Live, about 5 minutes of what Jesus said. You can find the weekday commands of Jesus at our 260 Bible plan, 260 days a year, 5 days a week, at bible.today.church. Jesus said to go make disciples, teaching them all the things that I have commanded you. And so the vision behind these Jesus said statements, the little sound bites of his commands, is to help us to not only understand what Jesus said and what he commanded so that we can go make disciples, but it's more than just understanding. It's also about obeying. So how can we both understand and obey the things that Jesus said? Today's command is from Luke 14:18, or verse 8 through 12, where it says, take the cheap seats. In context, in verse 7 of Luke 14, Jesus has just noticed that at this dinner, at this gathering, at this meal, that people were kind of scrambling and trying to sit in the seat of honor near the head of the table. And so he gave this advice, and we'll start in Luke 14, verse 8. When you are invited to a wedding feast, don't sit in the seat of honor. What if someone who is more distinguished than you has also been invited? The host will come and say, give this person your seat. Then you will be embarrassed, and you will have to take whatever seat is left at the foot of the table. Instead, take the lowest place at the foot of the table. Then when your host sees you, he will come and say, friend, we have a better place for you. Then you will be honored in front of all of the other guests. For those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. That verse is a kingdom principle. I want to repeat that. For those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Then he turned to his host. When you put on a luncheon or banquet, he said, don't invite your friends, brothers, relatives, and rich neighbors, for they will invite you back, and that will be your only reward. Jesus said to take the cheap seats. That's really counterintuitive to much in our society today, because we're about getting the best value, the best deal, the best seats. How can I get upgraded to first class? Well, in the kingdom, being upgraded to first class starts at the bottom. The last will be first, and the first will be last. God's kingdom, following Jesus, is upside down from sometimes the logical way to approach things. It's not about anything other than heart. We seek the cheap seats. We take the cheap seats not because it's some sort of false humility and trying to show that we don't deserve anything. It's not about that. It's obedience and a heart of mercy, just like Jesus. Even though he was God, fully, completely, the fullness of deity dwelt in him. But he humbled himself and became a servant as an example for us to know the best way to live. You can try to exalt yourself. You can try to be successful in the ways of the world. You can try to have that place of honor. And there is some reward in that, but it's nothing compared to the honor that you will have if you humble yourself, if you take the cheap seats, if you serve someone else first, if you make it about a heart of mercy and compassion and serving others rather than trying to get a seat at the head of the table. Because when God exalts you, it's so much more than when you try to exalt yourself. When God establishes you into the position in the kingdom, it's so much better than rushing to the head of the table. Well, I like to ask myself this question. Am I the least important person in the room? Because if my answer is no, then I'm not really taking the cheap seats and I'm not following Jesus. That's the command to remember today. So as you go throughout your day, look for the cheap seats. Try not to exalt yourself. Let God do that. He's much better at it. Jesus said, take the cheap seats. How can we put that into practice today?